Hello out there, guys. Hope you're having a great day out there in this open air psychiatric ward. Of course, I'm joking. It's not too bad. It's not too bad out there, guys. So I'm back today, a slightly different video, and it's a topic that's really interested me a lot down the years. We're going to break it down. I think it's an important one because it is integral to the start of the kind of like new age free love hippie movement that I talk so much about on this channel. Before we get into it, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget, if you would like to work with me or check out my course, my energy interference removal course, you can do so at my website, which is transcendingtimes.org. So without further ado, guys, we're going to break this down. So what am I talking about today? Well, you can probably see from the thumbnail and the title. I'm going to be talking about the Beatles. Now, the Beatles were really kind of at the start of the, as I said before, this kind of free love. And when you really think about it, they really changed society as a whole. And really that was the intention. That was the intention of the Beatles, because, and this might trigger quite a lot of people, as a lot of my work does, and it might not make you feel good, but when you research this, it's all pretty clear that this is what happened, because the Beatles were actually a creation, and they were a creation of the Tavistock Institute in London. And for those of you that don't know about the Tavistock Institute, I highly recommend that you go and research what that place is. But it's all to do with mind control, social engineering, behavior analyzation, and a lot of things that we see in society today were born in the Tavistock Institute. And so the Beatles essentially were a creation from the quote-unquote elites, when really they're the elites of nothing, because they needed to break down society. They needed to shift society in a new direction. They wanted to change the culture, and they wanted to really get rid of traditional values. And when we see what preceded what came after the Beatles, there was a culture of free love, of drug taking, and the Beatles were almost seen as like gods. You know, you look at old footage and there's women that were fainting at their feet, and it was really kind of scary, the impact that they actually had and continue to have. They continue to have today, because they did shape society as well. They were the start of what shapes a society to what it is today. We see the Beatles' influences everywhere. It's in other bands, it's in other genres, and yeah, as I say, society as a whole now, it's slowly, year by year, decade by decade, has become more and more, I don't know what word you would use, sort of decrepit, I guess. And when you look back at the timeline, it all kind of stemmed from there. And they also, part of this new social engineering was to bring in what Aleister Crowley called the Aeon of Horus. And so they were the Pied Piper of this era. And so when you look at a lot of the symbology within the Beatles and their album covers and things like that, there's a lot of examples in there that really show you that they were working for the other side. Now, the question remains, did they know that they were, or, you know, were they clueless to it? Well, that's up for debate, but I would imagine that by the end of it, certainly, they were aware that they were part of something that maybe wasn't as good as what everyone had made it out to be. And of course, John Lennon was killed in very suspicious circumstances. When you research into that, it seems quite clear that he was done in by a professional assassinator. And again, like everything, the story that we were told um, doesn't seem to match up. And so we can speculate as to why he was killed, and we can speculate into the fact that there were rumours that he was going to write a book, a reveal-all book, as to what the Beatles were about. So that is all up for speculation, but we cannot deny that they were used to shape society. And as I say, if you look at some of their occult symbolism within their album covers, you'll see a lot of clues. So, for example, we see a lot of references to bird cages. The bird cage is a very occultic symbolization of mind control, and we see that a lot. There's a lot of references to birds in many of their albums, actually. On the Sergeant Pepper album, we see Pied is actually stands for multicolours, and we see a lot of multicolours on that album cover. And of course, I talk about the multicolours being used for the chakras, the multicoloured, the rainbow. We see it now with LGBT. It's very alluring to our subconscious. They know that. That's why they use it a lot. So there's a lot of symbology going on. We're going to get into Paul McCartney in a second, because that's a whole nother story and a whole nother rabbit hole that I encourage you to research. But I would also encourage you to research the interviews with George Martin, which some people say he was the fifth Beatle. And it's quite clear that they didn't even write all their music. In fact, maybe they didn't write any of it. Again, that is up for speculation. The whole idea that Paul and John wrote 100 songs between 1962 and 1966 is a bit of a Cinderella story. When you research it, it's clear that there were people from behind the scenes within Tavistock and EMI, the record label, who wrote the songs. So it's very interesting when you go down this rabbit hole, and like everything, you start to learn that actually what we were led to believe wasn't the truth. So I'm not going to get into all the details. This is just a video to get you started. You can research this topic extensively. You can spend days on it. I'm just pointing out the key points here. But essentially, it was to manipulate consciousness, which is what they did. Now, when you get into the story of Paul McCartney, I believe that he was the real Paul McCartney. I believe that he was actually killed, maybe even murdered. Maybe it was even ritualistic. We know this happens within music. There's been a number of, let's say, suspicious deaths down the years. We had Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, George Michael. That they died really young, and we know that they. There's contracts in place for different things, disclosure contracts, and some of them are selling their soul for fame. So again, that's speculation, but it's pretty clear, certainly in my mind and in the mind of many other researchers, that the real Paul McCartney was replaced. And the rumor was that he died in a car crash on the 11th of September 1966. So we can see there by that date, the 11th of September the 11th, it's a very important date in terms of their rituals. So when you research this, you come to understand that the Beatles, there were many doubles. They say there was 3 doubles for every Beatles. But there was one person in particular that had let's say, the primary contract for Paul McCartney, and this is the guy that we see now. And his real name is Billy Shears. There's speculation that Billy Shears was also maybe ghostwriting some of their songs. There was a book a book came out, and I recommend that you all read it, called Memoirs of Billy Shears. They say it was fiction, but there was there's a lot of truthful things in there, but it's painted as fiction. And it's quite clear that this Billy Shears, or who we're led to believe is Paul McCartney, was referencing a lot of the things that I'm talking about here, but they call it fiction. And when you look at the face of the real Paul McCartney and this Billy Shears character, it's very clear that these are different people. The face of Billy Shears is longer. The nose is different, completely different people. And so when you research the bloodline of Billy Shears, it's no surprise that you find that he has an elite bloodline connection. His dad was part of the Hamilton family, Scottish lords, Scottish rights, and his mum had her ancestry, or her surname was Percy, which goes all the way back to William the Conqueror. And we know that these people come through history. I can't say it properly. These blue bloods are coming round and round again through different eras of history. And so this is his role. His role was to play Paul McCartney, and he's still doing it to this day. And he even says in the book, Memoirs of Billy Shears, that he was heavily influenced by Aleister Crowley from the age of 3. And that age of 3 seems to be a very important age for them to do all their mind control and their MK Ultra stuff. Again, in the book, this Memoirs of Billy Shears, he talks about MK Ultra being used on him. So it all adds up. It all adds up to, the Beatles were a manipulation of society to knock out those traditional values, as I said right at the very start. And, we saw with what came after that, all the acid, the LSD. I mean, we haven't even got into how that would open people up to entity attachments and everything. But the main takeaway from this is that this was really when the New Age really started. This is when people's minds were kind of shifted, and I guess sort of led into a direction of New Age woo-woo thinking, is the best way that I can think to describe it. And when you look at society before that, the way that men and women behaved, very traditional. And then, of course, we had feminism and, what men have become as well. We can see that if you look at the timeline, that the Beatles were extremely instrumental in doing what they were supposed to do. So I would suggest that when you round it all up, it was a job well done, and they did what they were designed to do. And no doubt I'm going to get comments and some hate from Beatles fans, and it's going to trigger people like all my work triggers people. But I would encourage you all to really research this. It's fascinating at the same time, especially when you look into the replacement of Paul McCartney and Billy Shears. I mean, talent-wise, the voice of the original Paul McCartney is way better than this imposter. And of course, he's got to keep hush hush about it. He's not gonna tell us what's really happened. But it is interesting when you consider that John Lennon I believe, was assassinated. And I just wonder what that reason was. I mean, it could have been part of his contract, but maybe they were concerned that he was going to speak too much. He was certainly a thorn in the side of President Nixon at some point. You never know if these people are really, against the system, quote unquote, or they're controlled opposition. We have it today with the likes of Russell Brand and Robert Kennedy Jr. and all that crowd. So was he there just to take the edge off of some of the anger and frustration of the people from, who were against the Vietnam War? Was he the gas valve, let's say? But yeah, this group were worshipped as gods. I mean, I'm from the UK, and it's ingrained within our society there, but also around the world. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. But like everything, don't just disregard it. Research it. All the information is out there. But I just wanted to put this together today to get you thinking. And of course, like I say, it ties in with the whole New Age sort of fake spiritual movement. I believe strongly that this was the start of it, the mainstream start of it, let's say. So, yes, guys, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to check out all my other work, as I say, on my website, transcendingtimes.org. And I'll see you on the next video. Take care.